Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. Welcome to our week number 2 live stream for our research methods class. I see a bunch of you getting on here, joining me, putting your names in the chat. That's amazing. Thank you so much for being here with me live. Can you all hear me and see me okay? If somebody could put that in the chat. And then I'm going to wait just a second here because it looks like there might be a couple of ads as we start this stream. But let me know if you can hear and see me okay. Perfect. Great. Okay, I'm going to wait just a few seconds here while these last two ads finish up. We're almost done. I'm glad all of you can hear and see me just fine. I hope everyone's doing okay, hanging in there and surviving the first week or two back at school. Okay. Looks like our ads are done now and we are good. Sometimes there'll be one at the beginning and then that should be it. But like I was saying, I'm hoping you're all doing okay and had a nice, long, relaxing weekend. It was nice to have an extra day, though I was sharing with my classes today. I was a little sad because my guy, right? My guy, he didn't win, right? He definitely wasn't the best game for Brady and the Bucks, and he's out of the playoffs. So that makes me sad. So now I move on to my next guy, right? I'll just move on to Mahomes and start rooting for him for the playoffs and just hoping for some good games. But I was sad about that, and I'm missing the rain, but otherwise doing fantastic. And I hope all of you are doing well also. And so my plan for today, we have finished week number 1. We're down 1 week of the semester. I want to start by giving you some feedback from week number 1. So we'll look at some of the things that you submitted and I'll give you some kind of general comments of how people did. I always will send out an email on Monday nights. Mondays I will typically grade the materials from the previous week, and I'll send out an email with some reminders and general comments. But I'm going to start the streams from here on out with some feedback from the previous week. Then we'll go over the reminders and things that are due for this week. I will always give you the extra credit question and some reminders for like our next live stream and so on. And then I will end with questions. So typically about 30 minutes or so on average. And I'm, again, grateful so many of you are here with me. So that's fantastic. Let's head over to Canvas together and take a look. So as I said, week number 1 is over. And so let's go into our class. I had it up here and then it got booted me out. So last week, right, we were looking at kind of being a critical consumer of information, introducing some topics for the class. So let's click on week number 1. Hopefully all of you read the chapter in the book, that you went through my lecture and watched the lecture video, and it seemed like most of you were feeling really good about the information and the materials from what I read on my end. Hopefully that is the case on your end as well. So the one item that you did have due last week was discussion number 1. And so I just want to take a couple of minutes to talk about what I saw and some things that were really good and some things that maybe as a class we might want to focus on moving forward. So most of you did a fantastic job on discussion 1. I gave out a lot of like 13, 14, 15 points, which is amazing. That's a great start. I hope a lot of you took the time to watch the video. The videos are always going to be really helpful for you and giving you a little bit of an overview and some tips and information. So for this discussion, you were in charge of talking about what it means to be a critical consumer of information, finding a news headline and story online, and then kind of being a critical consumer of that headline and story that you found. So most of you did a great job talking about what it means to be a smart or critical consumer, kind of questioning everything, always making sure that you have the full picture, thinking critically, all that sort of stuff. Nice job on that. And all of you found an article and a headline. So what I saw that was really good was a lot of you answered the questions in depth. Most of you answered a peer and did the peer response, which is worth 2 points. And a lot of you gave me great detail. The biggest place that I saw that people lost points on this discussion was some of you for number 3 just kind of summarized the article. Yeah, you told me a little bit about like what it was about and your opinions on it, but you didn't think about it critically. What I wanted you to do was kind of critique it using a scientific lens and the things that we covered in chapter 1. And a lot of you did that, a few of you didn't. That was the number one reason that people lost points. The other big reason people lost points was just not giving me enough detail. So if I told you in my feedback, hey, I wanted a little bit more, or I wanted you to be a little bit more critical, that's the feedback that I was talking about there. And then the other thing was a few of you did not respond to a classmate. So just remember with each one, not only to respond fully and in depth to my questions, but to also read through a handful of your peers and respond to one of them. So again, overall, really nicely done. Every week I will give you feedback on your grades. And so using the rubric, you'll have your score. I oftentimes put some comments in the chat, unless you did a beautiful job, in which case I might not write anything too in-depth. I wrote a lot of like great job or nicely done. But if you go into announcements, I just wanted to point one thing out really quickly. So for week number 2, I put this at the bottom here. I have a little link here if you want to be able to find your feedback, find your grades, and use them as a learning opportunity. This is something that I would constantly encourage you to do. So anytime you get a grade from me, use it as a learning opportunity. If you got 100% and you're happy with your score, keep doing the same thing. If you missed a point or two and I told you I want a little bit more, next week, give me a little bit more. And so I made this little video. If you click on this, it's a page that you can use. And I made a video showing you where to find your grades, where to find your feedback, talking a little bit about how to use them as a learning opportunity. So just make sure that you are doing that as we go through. It is a research methods class. We're constantly evaluating and trying to understand. And I gave you that little tip here in the announcement for this week. So again, always make sure that you know what your score is. If you ever have questions about your grade, feel free to email me or reach out. I'd be happy to give you a little more feedback or to say a little bit more. A lot of you did the extra credit, which is fantastic, answering the question I gave you last week in the live stream. Again, if you do this all the way through, that is like the equivalent of 2 missed discussions or maybe a low score on an exam. Those points are going to be really helpful for you. So I'm glad so many of you joined me last week and answered that. You can do that again this week and next week and so on as we move forward. So those are the things I want to say about last week. Are there any questions or things you're confused about? Anything I can answer for you before we move on to talk about week number 2? I just want to check in. If you have any questions, comments, anything, feel free to put those in the chat. And I will be happy to answer them. I'm going to wait for just a minute while I see if anybody writes anything. Yes, so I already graded all of the extra credit. Everything from week number 1 has been graded. So if you don't have a score for it, you can always reach out to me. The extra credit's confusing in Canvas. You have to say it's out of 0 points because it's extra credit, but you technically could get up to 2 points for answering it and clicking on the little extra credit Twitch thing here and answering it. So if you ever have a question, like I said, about your grade, you can always email me and I can take a look if you don't see a score, and there should be one. I will typically grade everything Monday night, unless it's a holiday. For some reason, everything will be graded on Mondays, and then you'll have your scores typically by the end of the day, along with an email on Monday nights. Okay. Even though there was a football game, I still had it all done. I was so sad during that football game, but I still had it done. All right, so I'm going to move on to week number 2. If you think of anything else, put it in the chat. But this week, we move on to chapter 2. And now I have split chapter 2 into 2 parts. You'll notice this week we do part 1, pages 23 to 38. Next week, we will do part 2. So make sure that you're only reading the first half. We'll focus on the second half next week. But in the textbook, make sure you read through part 1. And then, of course, you're going to want to go through my lecture. So page 1 is always the learning objectives and the summary. and then some images that are going to help you out. So we're looking at here sources of information explaining why scientists value research-based conclusions over beliefs based on intuition, locating information, reading it with a purpose. So we're looking at that topic for this week, a little bit about research versus our own experience and intuition, what makes intuition flawed and distorted. On page 2 of the Beyond the Book page, I have a little bit about science versus pseudoscience. So looking at, how do we define what is scientific versus pseudoscientific? That's a big focus for this week. Some elements of science, evaluating the credibility of sources. There's a little video to watch on that. Again, anytime I give you videos, watch them, click on my links. And as a side note, if something ever doesn't work, let me know. But it should. I double check everything all the time. And then on the last page, key terms and review. Here are the terms that you need to know from Chapter 2, Part 1, related to that first exam, which is coming up in a couple of weeks. So for now, all you need to do is worry about these ones from this part of the chapter. Once you have finished the lecture, you're also going to want to watch my lecture video. So I'm always going to give you one of these every week. They're relatively brief, but it's me lecturing on some slides related to this chapter. This one's on YouTube because I didn't have any outside videos in there. And I try and post things on YouTube whenever possible so you can watch it from anywhere kind of easily. But make sure you're watching my lecture video, taking notes. This stuff is going to be on the exam. It's in addition to the book. It's going to help you to understand it a little bit better. And then once you have read the chapter in the book, you've read through the lecture, and you've watched the lecture video, then you can go and do the discussion for the week. So every week you'll have a discussion. This one is discussion number 2 on Chapter 2, Part 1. And as always, watch my little introduction. Look how short my hair is in this video. That's funny. Watch my little introduction that I made for you. Make sure you answer all of my questions. Be detailed, give me lots of information. If you missed a point or two on the last week's discussion, give me more this week. Really elaborate, show off your knowledge and comprehension. Think about them as kind of like little mini papers that might help you. And then you're also going to want to read through at least 5 of your classmates' responses and reply to one of them. So your responses to my questions are worth 13 points, and then 2 points for your responses to a peer. So all of that will be the same every week, just to kind of remind you. And so here are the questions for this week. So I want you to read these little articles and excerpts on science versus pseudoscience. So if you click on this link, it's going to take you to some little articles that I put together. So this one is what is pseudoscience. The next one is a pragmatic approach to the demarcation problem. And then distinguishing science from pseudoscience, and just kind of some bullets here. So make sure you read through all of that. That's going to really help you to answer the questions that I have. So 3 questions for this week. What are the key differences between science and pseudoscience? Provide and explain a minimum of 2 differences. What is the demarcation problem and who first identified it? And then what are some of the problems with the science versus pseudoscience classification? I want you to provide and explain a minimum of 2 problems. So, and a couple of you have already started this. When you're ready, you hit reply. And then let's say I really like what Julia did. I could reply to her, or I really want to reply to Manpreet. I could reply to her. So make sure that you're answering my questions fully. Show off your knowledge and comprehension. And again, I will continue grading these every week. And so hopefully you will start to kind of fine tune how to get full points on these discussions. Okay, so that is your one thing that is kind of point driven and due this week. It's worth 15 points. I also do have an optional extra credit question that I will give you here in a moment, which I will do every week. And remember, in order to get extra credit, you have to join me live or be watching this later as a recording and be subscribed. That way I can monitor that you watched it. And then you also have to answer the question on here. A couple of you were confused about that, so I just want to clarify. And I will always post a recording. So later today, once I have finished this, there will be a recording that's posted. The one from last week is already up. And that way, if you missed it or you want to watch it later, you still can. So a couple of quick reminders. I want to say, are there any questions about this week before I give you the extra credit and the reminders and all that kind of stuff? Any questions for me? Anything you're confused about or I can answer? And while I'm waiting for you, let me give you a couple of quick reminders. First reminder, please take a moment. Every stream, I'm going to remind you, just make sure that your subscription is still valid. It's good for 30 days. I really, from the bottom of my heart, appreciate those of you who took the time to do this. As I said, it takes me quite a bit of time to go through and record your attendance and match your name to your username. Those of you who are subscribed, I can just download that, and it saves me a lot of time. Thank you for helping me save that time. And also, if you only have the little crown next to your name, you still have one more step to do, which I can show you a little bit later. But if you haven't subscribed, please try and take a moment today or tomorrow to figure that out. I have the step-by-step instructions on Canvas. Do not pay for this. It should be free, ideally for you. The other reminder that I have for you, let me put this in the chat, is that our next Twitch live stream will be next Wednesday, the 25th at 12:30 p.m. Unless there's a holiday or things change or the internet doesn't work for some reason, we will plan on every Wednesday at 12:30 as our time. And again, if you can't make this time live, these are recorded. And if you would like to still get the extra credit, you can still do that if you can find a way to subscribe on Twitch so I can record your attendance. Okay, those are all my reminders. Otherwise, I have the extra credit question for you. I'll show you how to answer that. And then I'll see if you have any other questions for me. So here is the question. I wrote it down so that I didn't have to type and talk because it's not my life strength apparently. So the week number 2 Twitch extra credit question, let me put this in the chat, is describe one of the ways that intuition is biased and give a specific example. So extra credit number 2, describe one of the ways that intuition is biased and give me a specific example. So when you're ready to answer that, you'll head over to Canvas. And since we're in week 2, you'll click on optional Twitch extra credit number 2. So click here. And then let me just go into student view so it looks the same. And then at the top you hit start assignment. And there's some little reminders here. Make sure you put your first and last name in the comments in the chat box if you aren't subscribed. If you are, then you're set. And again, if you're watching this later as a recording, make sure you are subscribed so I know that you did watch it. Otherwise, what you'll do is you hit start assignment up at the top. And then you can type your response here in the box. And once you're done and satisfied, you hit submit assignment. You get your little confetti burst. And are those pandas riding a unicycle? That's so random. So make sure that you go ahead and do all of that. I grade these throughout the week. So if you get it wrong, I will try and let you know and you can have another attempt at it. This is due before Sunday night at 11:59 before just like everything else. See, somebody else wrote, pay $5.99 on Twitch or have a Prime account. I don't have either. Yeah, and if you can't subscribe, it's okay. I won't resent you or anything like that. So if you are able to do it and do it for free, that's fantastic. If not, just put your first and last name here in the chat. And I know you were here. Obviously, like I said, it saves me a lot of time if you are subscribed, but I understand there are barriers to that, and that's totally fine. I don't want you paying for this. I know you already had to buy a book. Books are expensive. So just do the best you can, and if you can't figure it out, that's okay. It really is okay. And the extra credit question, I'll put it back in the chat for you again, just so that you have it. But it was describe one of the ways that intuition is biased and give a specific example. So describe one of the ways that intuition is biased and give a specific example. Okay. And then remember, you go on to here, you click on extra credit number 2, which is in the week number 2 folder. Everything you need for week number 2 is under that folder, just to try and help you keep it not confusing and organized. So if you're looking at this, make sure you read the chapter, you did the lecture video, you did the discussion, the extra credit. Here's the recording that will be up later today. And then you can always click on this little wrap-up checklist if you want to make sure that you got everything done. I do have that on here as well. Okay, so that is your task for this week. Make sure you get going on Chapter 2, Part 1, Discussion number 2, the optional Twitch extra credit if you would like. Yep, and then there is, yes, I sent out that earlier. Thank you for putting that on. Pickles, I saw Pickles. It's a person party, Pickles. Just saw Puss in Boots for like the 3rd time. But yes, there is a way you can subscribe to Amazon Prime Student Edition for free for 6 months. So you could always check that out. I sent out an announcement about that the first week of class. But again, if you can't figure it out, it's okay. I'm going to keep reminding you, but if you can't, it really will be okay. I appreciate those of you who did it, but if not, it's okay. So get going on all these things. If you have any questions for me, I will hang out for the next like 5 to 10 minutes or so. You can put them in the chat. Traditionally, again, this will be about like 25 to 30 minutes. Not too long, but I think hopefully that will be something that's helpful for you. And yeah, here, let me show you. So if you go to announcements, and go all the way down. See how it's right here? See free Amazon Prime for students. So I gave you some instructions. There is a free 6-month Prime. Again, if you're interested, it's there. Otherwise, again, thank you all so much for joining me live. I really do appreciate and enjoy the interaction with all of you. If you have questions, put them in the chat. I will hang out. I'm here. Otherwise, I will hope to see you all next week on Wednesday at 12:30 for our week number 3 Twitch live stream. So have a wonderful week. I'm going to minimize my video, but I will hang out for a little bit. If you have any questions, I will still be here. So yes, I'm still here. Feel free to put them in the chat if you need to. And thank you all as well. Thank you. Thank you for being on here. And I will hope to see you all next week. Thank you as well. Thank you so much for joining me. Thank you too. Thank you. And I am still here if any of you have any questions, just to remind you that I'm still here. And if not, that's totally fine. We're done for now. So you can go ahead and log off, get going on this week's materials. And I will just see you all next week. Perfect. Yeah, apparently everyone's feeling good, which makes me happy. I want to call you Meowdor. I don't know if that's the right pronunciation. But yeah, nobody seems to have questions. I will see you next week. And again, if you can't figure that out, it's not a big deal. Nice. I like it. You as well. See you next week. All right, everyone, it looks like just about everybody has logged off. So I am going to go ahead and close this up and see if I can start the download and upload to post it on Canvas. So I will see you all next week. Have a fantastic week. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you on Wednesday.